Rovers might be on the lookout for a new manager following on from John Eustace's departure to Derby County, but there is already a standout favourite in the bookies' odds. Who am I talking about? I'll tell you all about it next. That's right, folks, back once again with another video. Today we're taking a look at the latest, or the big name that is, of course, linked with Blackburn Rovers, taking over the reins from John Eustace. Who am I talking about? Well, I'll tell you in a second. If you know where you've been, hit the old subscribe button. You want to subscribe for Blackburn Rovers, new managers, whatever. World football, we're going to all hit under one Rooski. That's right, of course. A whole barrage of names have been thrown about at the moment. But there's only one outright candidate, according to the bookies' odds, and we'll look at that in just a second. Big shout out to the members, big shout out to the patrons, you know who you are. Of course, we are looking forward to tonight's game against West Bromwich Albion and Blackburn Rovers, with Damien Johnson likely to be in charge there. But could there be a new manager in waiting, that's right, for the game for Plymouth on Saturday? Well, big shout out to the members, big shout out to patrons. Let's take a look at the bookies odds and who we are talking about. We are talking about, of course, ex-Rover himself, Lee Carsley, that's right. Goodness gracious me. I did drop a video sometime today with 4 names that jumped out from the bookies odds, and this guy was not on one of them. 2 of the other 3 were in that 4, with Rob Edwards and Gary O'Neill, who still don't seem to be going away. But Lee Carsley's got significant traction right now. I think he was a 10-1 shot way earlier in the day. And of course, there's actually been further developments with that odds. We'll look at it in a second. But yeah, who is Lee Carsley? Well, he is ex-England coach, that's right. So let's take a closer look at him right here, right now. I'm going to jump into the deep end if I can. So sit on tight. Here we go. As Lee Carsley right here. Of course, he's got the old Steve Keane look, which of course is not the greatest look, even though it is quite trendy. You know what I mean? No hair and all that kind of jazz. Anyway, Lee Carsley, of course, is 50 years of age. Good age for a coach, I think. He is, of course, of dual citizenship, controversially so, of Ireland and England. Why do I say that? Well, he represented Ireland as a player, and of course, he managed England as a coach. And he refused to sing the national anthem. So, you know, I don't know. That's something to be argued about. He does play a 4-2-3-1, which is what we have been playing throughout the season. And of course, he's got his UEFA Pro license, which is, of course, you know, top tier. Top tier. Let's take a look at his record. Again, he hasn't managed in a professional capacity at club level, but he is recognised highly across the FA and in British football as one for the future. He was a little bit hard done by not to be taking over the England role on a permanent basis. He had 6 games as caretaker coach. That's more than Sam Allardyce, which of course, and he won, I think, 5 of the 6 games, 2.5 points per match. Of course, he's been now reappointed as England under-21 manager since, of course, the turn of the year, yet to resume those roles. So I'm not sure about what contract scenario he has with the English FA under that under-21 managerial situation. Maybe it's got a release clause if a club comes in that meets a certain standard, etc., etc. But prior to that, he did manage the under-21s 29 times with a 2.41 points per match ratio, and he's even managed the under-20s. He also picked up a result as well. He does boast well, I'll get that in a minute, a number of games as a manager, 89, winning 63 of them, and just 15 losses, of course. The points per match isn't impressive, 2.25 points per match, but let's put that into the grand scheme of things. That is, you're managing England for 5 or 6 games there. You've got the Jude Bellinghams of the world. You've got the Phil Fodens. You've got Harry Kane's. You know, you've got pretty much some of the best players on the planet there. So if you had a really shitty points per match ratio, then I'd definitely put this out of the way. But you know, I think if I had that core of talent, I also could get a win or 2 under my belt if I had about 10 games a crack at it. So that's one thing, you know. So the 2.25 points per match ratio is a little bit kind of funny because, you know, you're managing some of the best players on the planet. and also the best young players on the planet with England's under-21. They ain't no slouches these days. The under-21 of England is probably one of the best in the world. They've got a massive selection pool, and it's kind of like a quality street of football teams. You get to pick the best of the country and have a go at it. And of course, he was very, very successful with that. But he is highly regarded for his tactics, of course. And he was actually, funnily enough, earmarked to take over the Derby County role instead of John Eustace, or one of the names that was pushed around. So I'm not saying he is the coach in waiting, but the significant traffic from 10-1 to evens is pretty crazy. So this is the chat that at the moment, early doors officially, again, we don't even know, it's not been actually confirmed yet. It probably will happen as I speak, but it's a funny old situation. But again, Lee Carsley, good age, good, good connections. This is good, of course. And let's look at a similar sort of scenario here. Stevie Cooper is the name I want, and if you asked if everybody could pick their potential new manager, Steve Cooper would be it, because he gets promoted, etc., etc. He was, of course, an England youth head coach or something like that. He was snapped up from them by Swansea and did wonders. So could Lee Carsley have that effect? Of course he could. Of course he could. But also, Ian Foster of Plymouth was also kind of cherry-picked in that regard. I also think he was an England under-20 manager for a bit of time. So that didn't really work out, did it? So he is still an unknown quantity. He could be a Steve Cooper, but he could also be an Ian Foster, if you know what I mean. But what he does got boasting for him is a track record of assistant coaches. Yes, right. He's been in the game as a coach in some capacity, stretching all the way back to 2012 with Coventry City, where he ended up as a player in the back end of that. So then he came in, took over caretaker responsibilities for 5 games. With a 1.80 points per match ratio. Then he, of course, went to Sheffield United as an assistant coach or assistant manager there. Then he went to Brentford under-21s, did a little bit, a year there before becoming caretaker manager for the senior team after Dean Smith was probably snapped up by Villa or something like that. I'm not too sure, but he managed 10 games, 1.70 points per match in that capacity. Let's look at his tenure at under 18s at Man City, 35 games there as under 18 manager, 2.34 points per match. Of course, he did take over as caretaker manager as well for Birmingham for 3 matches, 1.33 points per match as well. So he's done his time as an assistant coach and just a coach in general. Maybe it's time for him to take the spotlight in full capacity. He's also a ex-Rover. That's right. He was here during our twilight seasons of 1999-2000, playing 46 times, scoring 10 goals as a defensive midfielder, aka the Lewis Travis of today. He has played in a whole host of clubs. Coventry City was nearest and dearest to his heart there. Derby County, of course, a team he started off as a pro before a switch from Coventry to Everton. Then Birmingham. Of course, he is capped by Ireland, so he should have connections there, and he should have connections with the English FA as well. So he's well-rounded, well-connected, and he could be an absolute gem if he is becoming the head coach of Blackburn Rovers. Of the other names that are banded around right here, right now, there is some unnecessary faces that refuse to go away. Of course, there was a link out there earlier. Ika Karanka, formerly Borough. Of course, his stock has taken a massive tumble, and not necessarily one that we should be considering. Ryan Lowe refuses to go away. Local laddish. When I say local, from the northwest, he's got that Merseyside accent, and of course, he's got Preston North End blood through his fingers, so not necessarily recommended. So if we are to consider Lee Carsley amongst those 3, then sure, Lee Carsley gets it. But if we bring it back to the front, of course, with Ryan, matey boy, Edwards, who else was in that top of the graphic? Let me go back. My mind's Edwards, Gary O'Neill, and Lee Carsley. Yeah, I think those 3 would be nice to interview, of course, and that would be some great candidates to look upon. Just want to let you know that the actual odds of Lee Carsley taking over the reign have actually strengthened 2-1 on now. So he's looking pretty much good, or at least a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon and putting £1 or £2 on him to become the next Blackburn Rovers manager. So it could be fast tracking and get him in. Of course, there was also talk on Twitter that he was attending the Lancashire Derby game against Burnley early doors at the start of the year. So maybe he's been a fan or an admirer or vice versa. Because, you know, if you look at the smear campaigns going on between Blackburn Rovers and John Eustace, folks are saying that John Eustace was applying for jobs left, right and centre, and he just wasn't happy being in with the surroundings behind the scenes. So, it could be a very, very interesting couple of days. So stick to us here at Blackburn Rovers. Smash the like, smash the subscribe. We'll be back with any developments when we get them. But until then, I'm done.